Happy Types on Tuesday. Today we will be talking about memory. So, I'm an INFJ and I'll be talking about my relationship with memory. And if yours is different, great. I'd love to hear your perspective in the comments below. So I'm talking about memory in general as a generic term, but oftentimes memory is associated with the function introverted sensing, which can be seen in SJs very commonly, predominantly. And so it's not in the top 4 functions of the INFJ, so it's not a value, and I can attest to that for me personally. Not only am I terrible at it, but I haven't tried to get better. I did mention in a previous video not wanting to negatively affirm my flaws, negatively affirm myself or others in general. If you say you're bad at taxes every year, then you're not going to get better at taxes, person. But I like to allow an openness instead of deeming fixed traits, especially on myself, because I'd like to see myself as like a growing human who can develop and strengthen new parts of my personality. Though, I will say this has been a consistent weakness throughout my whole life. And so I'm going to share it because I do think it's important to recognize your flaws and how you can grow from that. I have a terrible memory. I'm going to qualify this term. I forget things that I learned before, not archival. There are a few things that I'm archival about, and those are things I'm super passionate about, like MBTI, and that I'm continuing to learn more information about, so I have to be actively passionate about it. And delve deep. Otherwise, I don't tend to retain information. Unless it's, again, something I care about. That's what I remember. And you'd think that would go for most people. I think it does for a lot of people. You remember what you care about. But some people care about a lot of things. And also some people just remember unnecessary or maybe necessary details and facts. Like, they just retain it. They're just sponges. And that's not my reality. By the way, when you see me scanning, for those of you who like to notice micro expressions or whatever, I'm reading, right? I have some notes here on my laptop, so I don't want to miss any of it, because, you know, I might not remember what I put down. I remember childhood memories that Franco told me about his life, because it stuck out to me as relevant. Like, I found meaning from it. I'm like, that's why you do this, and correlate it together, and so then it sticks with me more. And I remember things that people say very distinctly. I remember words, and my love language just so happens to be words of affirmation, so that makes sense in that system. But compliments, insults, the words really stick with me. And what you're wearing when you say it will not. Or sometimes even who the person is. But I'll remember conversations that I had. I had a long road trip down to Nashville with my mom's friend, because she was going there anyway, and it was all convenient and stuff. We had a really great time, and then I didn't recognize her the next time I saw her, and I felt really terrible. But as soon as I'm reminded what we experienced or talked about together, it takes me back, and I'm like, oh yes. So if people could just come up to me and be like, you know, hey, I'm the one that we talked about, you know, existentialism at Dairy Queen, and then I'd be like, yes, you're great, or I hate you, go away. Just kidding. Full of jokes, this one. The light switch is representing my humor. It is on. So, I've heard this phrase before. Here's a joke for you. I don't remember faces, but I will forget your name. That's very true for me. Like, some people are like, I might not remember your name, but I'll remember your face or whatever. And I'm like, how convenient. I can't remember either. I met Franco about 5 times before I actually, remembered who he was, because of a conversation that we had. Before that, he was just a passing face at a writer's night. And for me, he remembered me right away after my first song. And there are some people who have very memorable qualities, like if there's someone wearing a huge yellow hat that you can't miss every time, and something super bold, maybe I'd be more inclined to remember. But so I'm sure there are some exceptions, but I tend to forget. Which worries me, because if someone robbed me, I wouldn't be able to identify the person. They'd be like, what were they wearing? What color was their hair? And I'd be like, I don't know, they were mean. I don't like them. Like, that's not useful. In other instances, so there's the memory game. This is a less severe than the robbery, the hypothetical robbery. Have you guys played that memory game, probably as children, where you flip it over and you get 2 matches? It's like, once you get 2 matches, then you can set them aside. It's like a grid of squares, cards. You flip it over, you see a duck, and then you have to look for the other duck. Well, the second I put the duck back down, I forgot where the duck was. That is that game, if my life depended on it, I would die because of that mother duck and duck. I'm very future-oriented. I'm constantly thinking forward rather than reminiscing. This is another aspect of memory that you hear about, memories, like literally having nostalgia and looking back and reflecting on the past, which I don't do unless it's the day or the week. I will journal maybe about my day or things I've learned from it, different chapters of my life. I sometimes might look back on, but very rarely. I'm usually looking forward and coming up with the next plan or vision. And those with introverted sensing tend to have a relationship with sentimentality, tend to be more sentimental, and also might have nostalgic spells. And I don't have that. I feel like, almost like, Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. Almost like I forget after a certain point. I end up just being able to move forward and forget heartbreak or other things that happen. And yes, I'm I'm an extreme example of a forward thinker, a future forward thinker. That squeaking, I don't know where it's coming from, and I don't know if I would be able to access it to make it stop. So I'm sorry if that's distracting any of you perceivers or anyone. I was wondering, this is a quick pause for memory, I'm wondering how you feel about me recording on my phone, because I know it might be a little shaky, and I'm wondering about the audio, because I don't know if you might even know the difference between this and my camera, but my camera shuts off a lot, and so I need to get a new one, and I'd like to just know that this is recording while I'm talking. It makes me feel more comfortable and secure. So does this coat, because I'm freezing, and I love coats. Now, back to memory. As soon as I mentioned my camera dying and shutting off, my iPhone ran out of space. It ran out of memory. That was ironic, and back to the show. So I used to feel very stupid about not being able to retain things, especially at trivia. Actually, when I was a kid, I used to feel like I was really good at trivia, but I just guess, I just know. I'd be like, C, I just know. Yeah, it's always C. No, but I would have good guesses. But as I grew older, I'm like realizing I don't know anything, or feeling like I don't know anything. And I would struggle with that. But my INTP friend, actually, James, that was seen in another video, he really helped reaffirm me and tell me that my brain needs storage for other things, for that I'm using my brain for more useful things in his mind. So he was saying that that's kind of around the time when I was theorizing about the different sort of smarts that we have. But he would tell me all the time, you're not stupid, and you won't know something until you learn. And sometimes you might have to learn those things again and again because you didn't care enough to, it didn't stick with you, so it obviously wasn't important enough to you at that time. So there's no harm in asking and learning. So I really appreciate when people aren't condescending when they tell me about something that they feel like I should know, but I don't know. I appreciate when people are, just factual and kind. So anyways, there are a couple ENFPs I know, Very Merry Videos and Kristen Bell. I know her personally, I don't. But they both have talked about not being able to retain information and having bad memories. Although I would argue that an ENFP might lean toward being more nostalgic and all that than an INFJ. Though I think intuitive types, they don't remember as many details compared to sensor types. So when you compare the two, that's definitely sensor's strength. And introverted sensing dominate. Introverted sensing is real world knowledge, and it can be facts oriented, archival. It can be particular, obsessive at times, focus on the past time and apply it to the next time or the now time. It can be more traditional. It can be a bit inflexible and like things the way they are. If it works, why change it? I actually heard my ISTJ boss say that once. And they're the masters of routines, and you can count on them, usually. They're consistent, These are some qualities that I associate with that function, and how one develops it totally depends on the type and the person. My relationship with nostalgia is usually triggered by a sensory sort of experience. Like I'll smell something that smelled like the gum that my ex-boyfriend chewed, or a song will come on or something, and it will take me almost back to that chapter or that place, and then I'm totally absorbed and emotional. But that very rarely happens, and when it does, I almost think it's beautiful in a way and appreciate that depth. Although if I were experiencing it all the time, that would be hellish. So sorry, INFPs. I can't even imagine. One final example, because I keep running out of storage, so it seems that no matter which camera device I use, it's going to be a challenge. But the last example is when I go to places, in particular when I go to martial arts, I always open the left door, even though it is locked, usually. Usually the right door opens. And I've learned this after several attempts. Or you'd think I'd learn it, but I'm still gonna go into martial arts thinking about, ooh, glad I had my water bottle, wonder what we're gonna work on today. Wonder, thinking about things, opening the left door again. So that can look very spacey to people who might notice, wow, she does that every day. Doesn't she learn? Doesn't she learn that from her mistakes? But that's just not a priority in the INFJ mind. I feel like it's so cerebral and heady, and that sometimes you might not be in touch with the things that you may have, that may be in your surroundings, and certain details also that you've learned, like what someone was wearing in a long conversation you had with them, but you remember the heart of it, and that still should be valued. So I guess takeaway is that we all have our strengths. This is definitely not a strength. There are pros and cons of not valuing introverted sensing, I suppose, and not being the greatest at it. But all in all, we are who we are, and that's helpful, right? I hope you all have a great day, and if I meet you in person, I'll meet you again next year. Bye!